Hi, I'm Joali Ray, and I'm a student of the MASLA program in Missouri State University, and I'm going to present my research proposal, Cultural Awareness Effect in the Motivation of Spanish to High School Students. Small communities in rural areas in the United States tend to have little diversity among their populations. Consequently, this type of community does not have the everyday opportunities to interact with members of diverse language, cultural communities. This lack of cultural interaction usually affects their views and attitudes towards second language acquisition programs, making them perhaps of less importance for the community in general. How does this affect the second language acquisition programs in rural area schools and their students? So here's the problem. The inexistence of daily interaction with diversity in rural areas may decrease the community's interest in second language acquisition programs. Therefore, most students are not encouraged outside of school to learn a second language or understand beyond high school graduation requirements the importance of learning a foreign language. The state of Missouri requires students to complete two consecutive foreign language credits to obtain an advanced high school diploma. And this is often the motivation for students to take the foreign language classes. Also, students acknowledge that college do give importance to foreign language when they evaluate candidates for admission. So, when students face challenges on their second language acquisition classes, they continue to push through in order to complete what they feel are the required years. And since they do not see the relevance of this asset, they do not continue into advanced second language acquisition classes. So, as a teacher in a small rural school, I have noticed that my students are not really encouraged at home to take my class, or maybe our program doesn't have that board support. And thinking about that problem, I came up with this idea of, or maybe if we the cultural awareness of the community, then that will help my program to grow and the students to be more motivated to learn the second language. Now, what are the research questions and hypotheses for this investigation? This investigation is trying to answer the following question. Will the implementation of a community cultural awareness program in a rural Midwestern community have a positive impact in the motivation of high school students in Spanish 2 classes? And as a hypothesis, we have the implementation of a community cultural awareness program in high school will have a positive impact in the motivation of high school students in Spanish 2 classes. So, according to Tomalin and Stemplesky, cultural awareness is sensitive to the impact of cultural induced behavior on language use and communication. Being sensitive to cultural behavior um, avoids misunderstandings. As you can see in the picture, they are all confused. Uh, you can just don't know what to do when somebody's trying to say hello to you by greeting you with a kiss on your cheek or shaking your hand. But when you understand why those behaviors happen and how those different cultures uh, behave or have different practices, that makes it easier to communicate. Culture is part of our way of communication. Often, students do not consider culture knowledge as an important part of their language learning journal. Cardona, Rico, and Sarmiento claim that students believe that culture is only about knowing and receiving foreign information. They do not know that development of cultural awareness is an important and necessary part of developing linguistic and communicative skills when you're learning a foreign language. This is part, this is a vital part of our ways of communication. When you understand the practices of a community, you are able to understand better how to communicate with them and how their language structures work. Uh, Boylan and Huntley wrote, if students and their community surroundings have a reasonable understanding of their own language and culture, this could work as an advantage to understand attitudes, practices, and traditions of people from other languages and cultures. Once cultural similarities and differences have been identified and understood, comparisons and contrasts can be used to advantage in the classroom. So, um, this this being able to do comparing and contrasting um, of cultures inspire part of this community cultural awareness program. Uh, you, I want my students to be able to present to the community these differences, these similarities, and for people to understand different practices. And even though we don't have a big diversity, for them to be able to experience it through their students. To find motivation wasn't a easy task. but I really enjoyed the definition that Longman Dictionary of Applied Linguistics gives to it. It actually was two definitions. They categorize it as two types of motivation for second language and foreign language learning. The first one is the instrumental motivation, which means wanting to learn a language because it will be useful for certain instrumental goals, such as getting a job, reading a foreign newspaper, passing an examination. And then there's also the integrative motivation, wanting to learn a language in order to communicate with people of another culture who speak it. I I would like to get my students to move toward the integrative motivation where they want to communicate to people, to understand their practices, to experience culture. That's what I like about these definitions. The last part of the methodology is the procedures. First, we will request school consent to run the investigation. After the consent is obtained, we will request parental permission, and after that permission is granted, the survey will be given to the students at the beginning of the semester. Then the 4 events of the Community Cultural Awareness program will be implemented through the course of the semester. These events are mentioned in this slide, but they will be explained further during the proposal. The survey will be given to students in both Spanish 2 classes after the program implementation, and data then will be analyzed. Okay, this is my reference list. Thank you for listening. Good night.